Hello, everyone. Am I audible? Okay, so fine, guys. I think I'm audible, right? Sorry, I was not able to take your classes last week because of some health issue, you can say, fever and cough. Now it's good. So I think we can continue. Yeah. So today I'm going to take your class, and tomorrow Avnish is going to take a classes. And let me set an agenda for today's and tomorrow's class. So today I'm going to show you, or I'm going to give you a walkthrough of this entire project, one of the project that we are going to do, right? End-to-end project that you can mention inside your resume directly. And tomorrow, Avnish is going to talk about a project and its integration with a different tools like Docker or maybe Kubernetes or ML Ops or DVC or retraining pipeline scheduling, plus multiple different factors he is going to discuss in our tomorrow's class. So it will be taken by Avnish, and I believe you all are aware about Avnish. So Avnish is a challenge winner, and he has created a pretty amazing project. And yes, so this project is more like a platform. We are going to focus more and more on a platform side, how you can create your own end-to-end machine learning platform, which will be able to solve not just one or two problem, but it will be able to solve a multiple problem at a time. So this kind of project we are going to discuss in our tomorrow's class. So let's start with the class, guys. And I believe I'm audible to everyone, right? Can I get a confirmation? Yeah, so DVC is not discussed in my classes. So DVC is more about a configuration, a way you structure a project, right? So this is something that we try to learn inside a DVC. Again, same thing happens with respect to MLOps. Same thing happens with respect to a Docker or Kubernetes, right? So these are the things that we are going to cover, and don't worry. So even if you are not aware about it, it's completely fine. We are aware about it, that you are not aware about all of these tech stack. So we'll try to discuss in such a way that you all will be able to understand. Yeah. So fine. First of all, we'll all have to go to a dashboard and iron.ai. And from this dashboard, you can do a sign up. And after doing a sign up, so you can go to your courses, full stack. And from here, so you can try download a code repository, first of all. So machine learning projects, and this is a resource, right? So just try to do one thing, guys. Try to click on this resource and download it. And let me know once you are able to download this one. So this is already available inside your dashboard. So anyone who is facing any kind of a issue with respect to a downloads, do let me know. But I believe you all will be able to download it from a resource section. Yeah, so fine. Is it done? Okay, fine. So once you are able to download it, so try to open up into a folder. So let's suppose I have downloaded this project in this folder. Try to unzip it. So we'll go step by step. So try to unzip this one. Yeah. And once you will be able to unzip this project, go inside this directory. So where you will be able to find out a code. So here you will be able to find out an entire code repository. Try to copy this one. And yes, it will be better if you can delete this underscore PyCharm folder, because this is just a cache folder. And some of you are going to face some sort of a issue in terms of environment setup if you have this folder inside your directory. Yeah, so maybe you can try to delete this one. It's completely fine. Majority of you are not going to face any kind of issue, but yeah, some of you are going to face an issue. So that is the reason I'm asking you to delete this one. Fine. So once you will be able to download this one, right? Try to open up your PyCharm. And I believe all of you have a PyCharm inside your system. So try to open up a PyCharm. Okay. So once you will be able to download this one inside your directory, inside your system, try to open up PyCharm, go to file and go to open, right? So we are supposed to open up a project, this particular project that we have downloaded. Okay, so try to click on open and then give a directory, and it will take some time, depends upon your system capacity, and it will try to search your project. So let's suppose my project is available in this location. Okay, let me so it's taking time. Project link is already available inside your dashboard, right? So I have just asked you to download these things from a resource folder. So it's already available over here. So click on OK, this window, and everything will be available. Okay, so again, I'll have to click on open. It's taking time to browse your project. Okay, so now this project is already available inside my directory, and it's available inside my PyCharm. And close each and everything inside your PyCharm. You will be able to see a series of directory structure over here. So is it fine? Are we all able to download this one? Can we use VS Code instead? Yes, you can use any kind of a ID. We don't have any kind of a issue. So in each and every ID, you will be able to do an environment setup. You all will be able to execute each and everything. So it's completely fine. You can use either PyCharm or a VS Code. It is not going to make any kind of a differences. Yes. So first of all, guys, download it, unzip it, and then try to open up your project inside your PyCharm. A very simple thing. It's downloading. Okay, did sir download taking time? It's a large file. It's not that large. I think 250 MB approximately. You will have to download. Please share a code again. Code is already available inside your dashboard. I have already shown you a place from where you can download it. It's available inside a resource directory of your machine learning first project, Bayesian fault detection. So your projects are already available inside your dashboard itself. You're not supposed to worry about a repository. I have already this in my project. I was present in our online class, community classes, I guess. Okay, that's great. Bayesian fault detection main project, main folder. Yes. Yeah. Which folder needs to be detected? Yes. Okay. So a folder where you will be able to see all of this directory structure plus multiple files. Don't worry about the file. Anyhow, we are going to talk about it. Okay. Now moving ahead. So let's suppose if I'm able to download this project and if I'm able to detect this particular project inside our PyCharm, which is nothing but an ID, and we can try to use VS Code or we can try to use PyCharm, doesn't matter at all. Code is already available inside your dashboard, so it's completely fine. Now you will be able to find out a file called as main.py file. So if you will go over here inside your main.py file, you will be able to see a multiple different kind of errors as of now, right? You will be able to see a multiple red marks in this particular place. It simply means that all of these libraries are not installed inside your current environment. This is the only case. So we have to configure this particular project. Then only we will be able to execute this one. Otherwise, you won't be able to execute this particular project inside your system. So let's try to configure this particular project. And in a similar way, let's suppose if you're trying to start ahead with a new project, so in a similar way, you will be able to create a new project. I'll show you that step as well. So how to create a completely new project, how to configure those projects, how to set up an environment for all of those projects, and then how to execute. All these things will be discussed inside your classes. But first of all, as we have already downloaded this particular project, so we are supposed to do a setup of this project in our local system. So let's try to do a setup of this project in our local system. So do one thing step by step. You all are supposed to follow. Go to file, then go to setting. Then once you are inside a file setting, right, you will be able to see this particular window, a setting window. Inside this setting window, you are supposed to click on the project side, project part, where you can see a project name, wafer fault detection. Now here you will be able to see an option called as Python interpreter. So if you will click over here, Python interpreter, right, it will give you an option. So here you will be able to see this one, this particular option, the gearbox, you will be able to see. Try to click on this gearbox, click on add. So we are trying to add an environment to this particular project. So click on this add. And then once you will click on this add, you will be able to find out a Conda environment here. So you can try to give any kind of a name, or by default, it will be able to detect a name. A name is going to be same as your folder name. So here it is going to detect it, or maybe if I have already created this environment, so in that case, I will have to rename this one. So maybe I can try to give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or my name, your name, doesn't matter at all. You can try to give any kind of a name. It's completely fine. Now, once you will be able to give a name, try to select a Python version. So you can execute this project in Python 3.6, 3.7, even in 3.8. I prefer to choose 3.6 version, which is a stable version. Even 3.7 is a stable version. You will be able to find out each and every compatible library over here. So fine, let's suppose if I have selected 3.7, right, I'll click on OK, and then it will take some time. It will download a required library, and then I'll click on apply and OK once this particular procedure is done. So are we good? Are we able to do it? Yes, Nilesh is saying yes, Ankit is saying yes. Can we use environment file? It's better to create a new environment each and every time whenever you are going to start a new project. Still downloading, not getting that Python version? No, I don't think so. Inside a Conda, for sure, you will be able to get that environment. Environment 3.6 is okay. Yeah, it's a Python version, by the way. It's not an environment name. It's a Python version. Environment name is something that you used to give when you click on this gearbox and then select a Conda. Fine. So all these required libraries are downloaded over here. Click on apply and then click on OK. If your system is slow, it will take some time. It will take some time to set up and configure each and every installation and downloads that you have done. So as you can see in my screen, it is showing me updating a skeleton. So it will take some time to update my skeleton, maybe a couple of minutes it is going to take, and then my environment will be ready. Now, in between, right? Let's try to understand, and still you will be able to find out that I'm getting some sort of a red marks, right? I'm getting some sort of a red marks over here in each and every places. So this is completely fine. I'm not supposed to worry about this red mark. I can leave it as of now. So it's like a completely fine. I'll tell you how to remove these things. So here, once I will be able to download each and everything, and once my environment will be ready, if you will click on this terminal, right? So let's suppose if I'm going to click on this terminal, I will be able to see a same name that I have given at the time of project environment creation. So anyone who is not able to get a same name, so let's suppose if you have given a wafer fault detection as a name, so the same name you will be able to find out over here. Yes, can I get some confirmation? Okay, still initializing the environment, which Python version to select? 3.6, by the way. You can select any, I don't have any issue. Any 3.x version you can select, but 3.6 is good. If you are not able to see any kind of environment name, close this one, close your local, and again try to hit your terminal. So it takes some time, like 1 or 2 minutes of time. And after that, it will be able to show you. And some of you are going to see some sort of a issue with respect to environment setup. That's completely fine. So our team will handle it. Okay, environment loaded, still environment is slicing, fine. I get a name as PS. I don't need to use a conda active command. Do I need to use a conda activate command? So yes, but again, if your directory is not same, so in that case, even conda activate will not be able to detect. Okay, so here again, I'm going to repeat a same step that I performed over here. So let's suppose I'm able to download this project. Let's suppose I'm able to open up this project inside a PyCharm. What we are trying to do over here is we are trying to set up an environment where all the repository, all the dependencies for each and every library will be installed. And for every project, so we used to create a separate environment. I'll be talking about environment in a little bit detail in some time, but environment is something so which we try to create as an isolated container or isolated box where related dependencies related to just this particular project will be installed. So it's completely fine what I have done. So I was like going through this file, then a setting, and then inside that project before fault detection, then Python interpreter. Again, I'm going to create an environment. So project name, then Python interpreter, and then this gearbox. Click on add conda environment, right? Give a name to this environment. So whatever name that you would like to give, it's completely fine. Then try to select Python version is equal to 3.6, right? And then click on OK. It will be done. So again, I'm going to create a new environment for this project. So in this way, you will be able to create hundreds of environment for a single project itself. Or for hundreds of projects, you will be able to create another 100 environments. So everything is possible in case of Python. Again, I'll click. It will try to take some time. It will try to build a skeleton. Again, I will refresh and I will be able to see a new name that I have given. So just now I have given 546. So yes, I'm able to see again a new name over here. So this is our environment that we have created. And in this environment, we are going to execute our project. Now, what is environment, by the way? So see, the thing is, and why we are creating an environment. So environments is nothing but a kind of a container, you can say, or a structure where so we can try to keep a different version of a dependencies related to a different project. So let's suppose today I'm working in XYZ project. Tomorrow I'm going to work with ABC project. Day after tomorrow I'm going to work with PQR project, right? So I'm working in a different projects. So let's suppose this is a machine learning project. This is a computer vision project. This is again a machine learning different project. So ML1 project in which I'm working as of now. Now my task will be different in this project. My task will be different in this project. My task will be different in this project. Again, when task is going to be different, so for sure, a kind of a library that you are going to use will be different. Libraries are not going to be same. And at any point of a time, you're not supposed to call all the libraries in all the projects, right? All the generic one. We always try to keep only those libraries inside our project, which we are using it actively, right? So we are not supposed to create a dead code. That's a standard coding procedure. So we are not supposed to create a dead code, or we are not supposed to import anything which we are not going to utilize inside our project. So keeping these things in our mind, what I will do is, so for this XYZ project, I will try to create maybe environment 1. For ABC project, I will try to create environment number 2. And for PQR project, I will try to create environment number 3. Now, so here I'm using some machine learning related libraries. Here I'm using some computer vision related libraries. Here I'm using some maybe different machine learning automation related libraries. So once I will be able to create a 3 different environments. So this 3 environment will be independent of each other. Let's suppose for a very simple example. So here I'm using Python version 3.6. Here I'm using Python version 3.8. And here I'm using Python version 2.7. It's completely fine. I can use it. And in the same system, right, without even doing an uninstallation of something. So in the same system, I will be able to enjoy a different version of a library at a time by creating a different environment. So it's always advisable to create a separate environment when you are going ahead with the new project. And that is the reason. So I went to a file, then setting, and then project, interpreter, and then I'm trying to set a different interpreter for a different project. And this is what I have done. And in this way, I'm just trying to create I'm just trying to break a dependencies between each and every project. So each and every project will try to execute inside its own environment. Each and every project will be able to enjoy its own library version. Because if this kind of things you are not going to do it, then for sure going forward in a big project, you are going to see a lots and lots of conflict in between a different version of the library that you are going to use. So it's completely fine. We have XYZ environment, ABC environment, PQR environment. Likewise, we have this environment. I've just given my own environment name, and I'm going to install all the dependencies related to this particular project. As you can see, multiple red marks, right? What is the meaning of this red mark? It simply means that this requirement is not fulfilled. This library is not available inside this dependencies that we have created, or this environment that we have created. So we can try to install all of those libraries over here, maybe one by one, or maybe in a bulk. I will be able to install all the libraries one by one, and then my work will be done, right? And whatever I'm going to install this time, so it is going to affect just this environment, not my base environment. If you are going to open up your Conda, right? So let's suppose if you are going to open up your Anaconda Navigator, here you will be able to see by default a base environment. Base environment is nothing but when you try to install a Conda version, by default it will end up creating a base environment where some basic version of the libraries will be available. But down the line, so we have seen that we have installed MongoDB, we have installed Cassandra, we have installed a SQL, we have installed like a Cufflinks, Plotly. We have installed so many different kind of dependencies, and you all have installed all of those dependencies in a same base environment, a default environment. But when we work in a project, we never do that. It's not like in a base environment, in the single environment, so I'll keep on installing each and everything. No, what I will do is I'll create a different boxes, a different environments. And then in a respective environment, I will try to install, or I will try to download a respective version of the library, so that everything will be independent of each other and there won't be any kind of a conflict I will be able to observe in between a multiple projects. So is this idea fine to all of you? Yes. Yeah, so that is the use of environment. So going forward in whatever project you are going to work on, first of all, do one thing: create a new environment. I'll show you even. So by creating a new environment, I'll show you these things. So see, inside my Anaconda, I have so many environment I have created, right? By default, most of you will be able to see just a base environment, a root one, a default one, right? But in my system, you will be able to find out a multiple environment, because depends upon my need. I keep on creating a new environment. In every classes, I create a new environment. I try to execute a code so that my base environment will be intact and I'm not going to disturb my base environment, which is up and running. Yes. Okay. So it's completely fine. So most of the dependencies we are able to install, but you will be able to find out that still we have some sort of an error, right? Still we have some sort of a red mark over here. So how I will be able to remove these dependencies issue? There are a couple of ways by which you can do it. So by doing pip install, so just try to write like a pip install Flask and this issue will be gone. Then you will try to install pip install Flask course and something else if we are trying to use. So you will keep on doing just pip install, and then in this way you will end up installing each and everything inside your system one by one. But again, that is not a proper way of doing an installation or doing a setup, because whenever we try to work in a project, so we end up using more than 100, 200 libraries, a different kind of dependencies. So the ideal way is to keep each and everything inside a file called as requirement.txt, right? So we try to keep each and every libraries, each and every dependencies into a requirements.txt file if you are working in a Python project. So here you inside my this left panel, you will be able to see a requirement.txt. If you are going to click inside this requirement.txt, you will be able to find out a different version, a different version of the library, which we are going to use inside this project. So again, you are not supposed to remember each and every version. So once you will start working in a project, you will keep on recognizing that, okay, fine. So I'm going to use this one, this one, this one. So you will just keep on adding all of those versions one by one. inside requirement.txt. And in your tomorrow's class, Avnish is going to tell you even that how to create this requirement.txt. So there is a command called as pip freeze. So with the help of command called as pip freeze, I will be able to create this requirement.txt file, because we have created this requirement.txt file. That is the reason. So we are able to share these things with you. So let's suppose if you have created a project and if you are going to share your project with someone, so what you will do, you will try to create a requirement.txt file in which all the dependencies you are going to mention. So it's not like you will just keep on like adding one libraries and its respective version inside this requirement.txt file. No, that is not a procedure. There is a command called as pip freeze, and with the help of that, we will be able to generate this requirement.txt file that we will discuss in a later stage. But as of now, our next target is to install all of these dependencies, install all of these libraries. So where I have mentioned Flask course, each and everything. So we are supposed to install inside our current environment, a current project environment. So it's completely fine. Let's try to do it. Let's try to install this one. So I'll go inside the terminal, right? And then I will try to type pip install -r. Generally what you do, pip install library name, right? So what we are trying to do over here, pip install -r. -r simply means that I'm trying to install a dependency from requirement.txt. This is the meaning of -r, because we all know about pip install, right? So here I'm going to use -r and requirement.txt, right? Requirement.txt, hit enter, and then one by one, it will start installing each and everything that I have mentioned inside my requirement.txt file. And you will be able to check your logs as well, right? Just for the verification. So yes, it is trying to install each and everything. It will take some time and it will be able to install. So guys, are we able to do it? Yeah, it will take some time. As you can see, even in my system, so it is taking some time. Requirement.txt, just try to install this one and then wait for some time. It will take some time to like build a skeleton. Yes. And here, these are nothing but just a warning. So you're not supposed to worry about this warning things. It's completely fine. If it is going to fail, then it will show you an error. But yeah, so this is like a completely fine. You're not supposed to worry about it. So here we are able to install this entire dependency inside our system. It is trying to work on my indexing part. It is trying to build my skeleton. So I'll wait for another 1 or 2 minutes. And after that, my environment will be done. Pip install -r and then space requirement.txt. Yeah, dependency resolver issue. If you are getting, it's completely fine. You're not supposed to worry about it. It's fine. It is failing, saying that requirement.txt file not found. So yes, because you have done a project setup, but maybe your directory is wrong, and just because of that, it is not able to find out requirement.txt. So make sure that you have done an installation and you have opened up your project in a current and correct environment and correct directory. And check your spelling as well. Requirements.txt, re. So here you will be able to find out this file, right? So try to give a same name or -r, re, and then press tab. Automatically it will complete. Now, I think my issue is gone, right? Yes. So my dependency is installed. My system is ready. Okay, dependency is installing. Pip install invalid requirement. So just try to ping me your command. I think you have missed out many things. So because of that, you're not able to do it. Where are these files stored for each environment? So yeah, you can try to check even inside your setting itself. So go to your setting, and here it is storing all of your like environments. You will be able to find out a correct path of your environments from here itself. Cannot open requirement file, no such file directory, reqrs.txt. Try to check your folder structure first of all. If your folder structure is wrong, it will give you an issue. And in general, so this project never gives an issue to anyone. unless and until you are not making a mistake. Although I try to give a unique name to the environment, I still get the same environment. No, I don't think so. I gave the same as a only fine. Can we share the environment? Yes, it is possible to share the entire environment. Those who are getting an issue, so maybe they can try to give a fully qualified path of a requirement.txt. See, if it is telling you that I'm not able to find out requirement.txt, it simply means that you are not pointing to a correct path. So even from your terminal, you will be able to change your path, even from here. So you can just try to do cd, and then you will be able to change your directory. Otherwise, you can try to give pip install -r fully qualified path, then requirement.txt. Either way, it's fine. You are just supposed to point out to that particular path, nothing else. Okay, so once this entire thing is done, right click and then run main. Yes, everyone. Fine. Now, so once this will be done, right? So right click and execute, click on run. And if it is telling you that scheduler has started, then you can do one thing. So you can try to open up your browser, right? So you all can try to open up your browser. And then over here, you can write 127.0.0.1. You will be able to see a buffer fault detection, this kind of a UI. So first of all, right click and run. I'm just trying to run again. And then you can go to your browser, localhost means 127.0.0.1. And here you will be able to see this entire UI. Now this entire UI we can try to utilize for a training purpose as well as for a testing purpose. So how we can try to use these things for a training purpose, how we can try to use these things for a testing purpose, we will try to understand. But before that, so let's try to understand a project part. So I believe we all are good with a project setup inside our system. So anyone who is facing any kind of a issue with respect to a setup? Okay, skeleton update is in progress. So I think few of you are like lagging behind. So it's completely fine. 127.0.0.1 refused to connect. So first of all, try to check whether you have installed this project or not. And this project is up and running or not, whether you are able to get this message or not, like scheduler started. What is the run command? There is no run command. I said right click, run main. You have to use 5002. No, it's not like that. So you are not supposed to use 5000 by default. It will be able to check a 5000. Even in my code, so I have commented out this 5000 port number. What is meant by wafer? Someone is saying what is meant by scheduler. So whenever I click even over here, someone will start asking what is meant by a server forever. So just wait for it, right? So I'm going to discuss each and everything. So wherever I'll click, people will start asking what is meant by this one. So in that case, first of all, I'll have to create a dictionary. So where I should write like a definition of each and every keyword, right? Okay, fine. So those who are not able to execute it, no issue. Try to understand this project, and for sure you will be able to debug each and every parts of this project in an easiest possible way. Those who are able to execute it, it's completely fine, because it happens like I can see 5 to 10 people are able to execute it, and some of you are facing issue, right? Okay, so now let's try to understand this project. What is this paper fault detection project? Why we are even doing this project? What is the use of this project? What is the structure of this project? Why there are so many directories we have? Where is the data set, right? What is the nature of the data set? What kind of a pipelines that we are going to create? Each and everything we will try to discuss step by step manner, right? And try to attend this entire class carefully, because tomorrow, whatever Avnish is going to discuss, so yes, there will be a lots and lots of dependencies you will be able to find out with respect to this project, right? So don't ask him that, okay, fine, so try to discuss everything from the scratch. That is not possible. It's a project that we are trying to discuss, and this is not a project that you can do it in a Jupyter notebook. It's a full-fledged and full-scale project that we are trying to discuss. So it is going to be more like a KD session, right? Not a one-by-one code. No one can write a line-by-line code inside a classes, because in that case, to discuss one project, we need at least 6 months of time just in your class. If we have to discuss one single project line by line, we can do it. We don't have any issue, because we are the one who have written this project. So this is not a big deal for us. But again, for you, it will take 6 months of time to do just one project. So try to focus over here. It's not tough to understand. And that is the reason. So we have spent 8 months of time in our class, so that we all will be able to reach out to this particular label, right? And if I have to explain again each and everything, same basic Python concept, right, over here, same basic machine learning concept over here, then I don't think that successfully we have completed 8 months of machine learning classes, right? So my expectation over here will be to listen up carefully, try to understand each and everything bit by bit, try to do an experiment, and then try to recreate this project by yourself. So let's try to start. Your starting point of this project is going to be main.py file. So I think we all have this main.py file with us, right? So this is the starting point for our project. Now this entire project is created with the modular fashion. Now let's come to the data file. So you will be able to find out a data file inside a training batch file directory. So first of all, let's try to understand what is this buffer and what kind of a data set do we have. So inspect code, find in path. So this is a path where I have all the data set available to me. So training batch file. Now these are the data set which is given to me. There are multiple files which is available to me, right? And all of these files are related to a buffer. Let me try to open up one of those files. So let's suppose if I'm going to open up one of those files, here you will be able to find out a sensor record. So multiple sensor record you will be able to find out. And here, so you will be able to find out inside a header a multiple sensor. In total, we have 590 column available inside this single file. Likewise, we have a multiple files, and in almost all the files, not almost in every file, you will be able to find out almost again. So every file you will be able to find out a 590 record. Now, so what is the meaning of this data, and from where we have captured this data? And this data set is not at all good. So you will be able to find out multiple null values, scrap data, multiple things you will be able to find out, right? So this is a kind of a dirty data set that we have in our hand, and we are going to execute and we are going to build a model on top of this one, right? So here we have a sensor data set, and we have 590 number of sensor in total, right, which is available to us. So I think we all are able to see this one and we all are able to understand it. Okay. Now, so let me go to a Google and let me show you something over here. So let's suppose if I'll go to Google and if I'll try to search buffer sensor, and if you will go to your image directory, you will be able to find out this kind of a picture. This is called as buffer. So again, this buffer is, and again on top of this one, so you will be able to find out a multiple sensors. Now, so once you will be able to install this buffer, right, it will start emitting a different kind of a signals. Depends upon a kind of a buffer I'm going to create, depends upon the kind of a sensors I'm going to install. Now, at any point of a time, any sensors can go for a toss, right? Any kind of a sensor, any sensors, because we have a multiple sensors, we have a bulk of sensors over here, and any kind of a sensors will go for a toss. And because of that, your buffer may give you some sort of a issue. And in that case, you are supposed to replace an entire buffer. And wherever we try to install these buffers, so it's like we try to install these buffers in a bulk. So maybe like thousands or maybe 10,000s or maybe 20,000s or maybe a millions of buffers we try to install in a particular environment to get a particular records. Now here, right? So if one sensor is going for a toss, then there is a chance that your buffer is not going to work. And even there is a chance that your buffer is going to work. Depends upon the relations, depends upon the criticality of that particular sensor, which is available inside a buffer. So here we have to build a system in such a way that whatever data, whatever signals which I will be able to receive, whatever record I will be able to receive from this buffer, right? It should go through a machine learning pipeline. It is supposed to identify, it is supposed to check my entire data set. And then after checking a data set, it should tell me that, okay, so this buffer is working fine or not. If this buffer is not working well, so in that case, we can try to replace it, because these buffers will be installed into a remote area, into a remote location. And if I'm going to assign a respective person to check a buffer, each and every buffers manually on each and every day, right? So it is going to cost us a lot. So we have to reduce our cost over here, so that, and we have to increase our maintainability of this particular buffer. And keeping these things in our mind, let's up, we are doing this particular project so that I will be able to identify, my system will be able to identify, my system will be able to flag this information that, okay, so this buffer is not working well as of now, go and just try to replace it. So I'm just looking for a buffer number and whether it's working or not. Again, so with respect to a buffer number, for sure in my DB, so I will try to keep an addresses and then locations and each and everything with respect to a particular buffer. So buffer fault detection, this is our name of this particular project, which we are going to do it. So are you able to understand business idea, why we are doing this project? What is the problem statement that we are trying to solve? Yes. Okay, so fine. And please try to avoid asking an unnecessary question, right? That will be better, so that I can try to move inside this project in a smoothest possible way, right? Because this is not our very first class. I think we all are connected since last 8th month, right? So we all are aware about each and every one. Fine. So yeah, try to avoid unnecessary question. Fine. So I think business understanding wise, it's clear. So we have a buffer. Inside that, we have a multiple sensors which is installed. And here is a buffer number which is given to you: 400, 401, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And from one single buffer plate, we have these many number of the sensor: 589, 590 sensor is available inside one single buffer, right? And each and every sensor is trying to give me some sort of a record, some sort of responses, some sort of information, some sort of a data set. Some of the sensors are trying to give it to me. So we are supposed to learn a pattern of this entire data set that we have, so that I will be able to understand whether this buffer is working fine or buffer is not working fine. So this is basically a train batch file. Now let me give you a walkthrough to a raw data file. So here you will be able to find out a training raw file, right? A training raw file. So if you'll go inside a training database, training batch file. Yeah. So just try to go inside the training batch file. And if you will try to open up any of these like files. So let's suppose if I'm trying to open up this particular file, right? So yeah, let's suppose if I'm trying to open up this particular file. So here inside this file, you will be able to find out a final column where -1 +1 -1 +1, this kind of informations you will be able to find out. This is nothing but our classes. So we have a binary class classification data over here. But the problem over here is, so we are supposed to learn this entire things in such a way that it is going to work well, even for this many number of the features, right? 590 features we have over here. 590 sensors we have over here inside each and every buffers, and we are supposed to understand a pattern in between all of these buffers. And then based out of that, labels are given to you. So labels are -1 +1 -1 +1, each and everything you will be able to find out. So it's completely fine. This is our data set. Now data set file wise, it's not just one file which is given to you. So let's suppose there is a system which is capturing all of those data sets from a server. So here in case of these IoT devices, what happens is, so let's suppose I have a buffer, and buffer is trying to like transmit this information. So through any kind of IoT based protocol, a most famous one is a MQTT. So we will try to, so let's suppose if I'm receiving an information, so by default, these buffers are not going to give you a kind of information that you are able to see inside your file. It will be available in some other format, in some other bytecode notation. You will be able to receive all of these informations and all of these data set. So here with the help of MQTT protocol, so we will try to transfer all of these data inside our system, or we can say inside our messaging system. So here, if we are receiving a data set maybe into a batch mode, so yes, I will try to store all of those informations inside this messaging system. If we are trying to receive all of those information into a streaming mode, so I'll try to receive all of those information into stream mode, and I'll try to keep it inside my messaging system. Now here, this message system can be anything. So it may be a Kafka, it may be a Flume I can try to use. It can be any other system. It can be connected to maybe a bucket. It may be connected to a blob. It may be connected to any kind of a DB. Depends, right? Depends what kind of what is the frequency that we are receiving from here, and what kind of a data finally we are trying to generate in between. So fine. So we are trying to receive all of those data from this buffer and through our IoT configurations through our MQTT protocol, and then we are trying to dump all of those information into a messaging system. Now, once I will be able to dump this information, so let's suppose in my local system, I'm able to pull all the information. So this is my local system from a server. So I'm able to pull all those information into a local system. Tomorrow, when Avnish will try to discuss about this kind of project, not the same project, this kind of project, right? So he will show you that you can try to keep your file even inside Azure, even inside AWS, and even inside GCP, or even inside any other platform. And from there, you can try to pull all the information inside your local, and then you can try to process it. Or without even dumping all the information inside your local system, you can try to process it. So that is something which is going to happen by tomorrow, in tomorrow's class. So this is the configuration of his project. But in this particular project, which I'm discussing as of now, so here I have already pulled out all the data, all the information from, let's suppose, this messaging system, or maybe from a cloud environment to my local system. So all these files are available inside my local system, as you can see, in a raw format without any kind of a modification. We have not done any kind of a modification so far, so forth, and files are available inside my system. Now, once my files are available inside my system, so I will try to create a pipeline. So what will be my first pipeline that I will try to create over here? A very first pipeline, let's suppose all of these files are available, as you can see over here inside the same directory. All of these files are available. Now, so if you will try to observe, every files is trying to follow a certain naming convention. So first name is buffer, So somewhere this name is not proper, buffer default, buffer12, buffer underscore text, buffer underscore fault. So you will be able to see a multiple files, but yes, majority of the files are following same naming convention, but there are some files which is not following a same naming convention. And again, all of these files are generated by some system. So someone has written a rule, someone has written a code to give a naming convention to all of these files. But because of some system glitch, some sort of an issue or some sort of an error, system will end up generating some name in a wrong way. There is a possibility because just a code which is trying to handle a system, right? Nothing else. It's not going to happen automatically, right? Someone has written a code to give a naming convention of the file, to generate a file with this size, this many number of the columns, and each and everything. So fine, I'm trying to pull a file from the messaging system. And because of some error in this particular place, or maybe in this particular place, this file name has altered. So if this file name has altered, we are not supposed to accept this file. The reason behind this one is, I told you when I was trying to explain my project in a previous class, last Saturday's class. So I told you that we try to sign off a data sharing agreement with the client, right? So in this data sharing agreement, we try to take a sign off from a client saying that okay, whenever you are going to send me a file, this should be a file name, this should be a naming convention, this should be a date timestamp of the particular file. If your file will not be available in this particular format, I will not even accept your file. I will simply reject your file. So fine, now files are available from, let's suppose, this messaging system in our local system. Now in my local system, I'm supposed to process this entire file with the help of pipeline. So I will try to create a pipeline. So step number one, when I will try to create a pipeline over here. So step number one will be, so try to read out all of these data, all of these files one by one, one by one, one by one, right? So there are like a 41 number of items, 41 number of files which we have, right? So we are supposed to read out this 41 files, first of all, one by one, right? So let's suppose if I'm trying to read out this one, read out this particular file. So first of all, I will check a file name. I'm not going inside the file, right? I will just try to check a file name over here. So I'll try to check whether this file name, right, is correct or not. So ideally, according to my data sharing agreement, a file name is supposed to be a buffer, right? Underscore timestamp, right? Underscore date. So this should be the ideal convention that we are supposed to follow in general, right? So let's suppose I have already defined a nomenclature of the file, and yes, we are receiving some of the file, but there are certain files which is not following this nomenclature. It's completely fine, right? These are the files. So like purposely we have created this kind of a file name so that we will be able to check a system, that my system is able to validate or not. So first of all, I'll try to check a file name, and file name check, date and timestamp check. Then we will try to check what, so whether all of these files are available in .csv format or not. If these files are not available in .csv format, in that case we will try to reject. So name check and extension check, first of all, we will try to do in this pipeline. Now once name check, extension check will be done, then so here I'm trying to read out what, a raw file, right? From here to here, from a raw directory, I'm trying to read out the file. Now once this check will be done, then I will try to store this entire information inside my databases. So in a very first step, I'm trying to pull out all the file from where, from my local system, right? From my local system. My local system is able to get a file from where, from the messaging system. My messaging system was connected to what, MQTT protocol, and through which it was able to fetch a data set. So MQTT protocol or maybe a ROS protocol you can try to use. So anything is completely fine. There are multiple protocols which is available. MQTT is just one of the like a famous protocol by which you can connect with any kind of a sensors or IoT devices which people are using worldwide. Okay, so what I will do over here, so once I will be able to check, then I will try to dump this entire data inside a DB. Now inside a DB, I will try to create maybe two type of DB, or maybe inside my directory. DB or directory, it's completely fine, depends upon me, right? So here what I will do is, so I'll try to dump these things inside a DB or maybe inside my local system in two directory. So let's suppose if I'm trying to dump this entire information into two directories, so I'll try to name this two directory as good and bad. So here, So let's suppose I have written a code, right? Now code is trying to read each and every file one by one, one by one, one by one. Now it is trying to check a naming convention and it is trying to check extension. So this one is bad, so it will go inside the bad directory. This one is good, it will go inside the good directory. Again, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good depends upon all of these files. So we are trying to separate this file inside good or bad, and our source of truth is what? Our data sharing agreement. So I'll show you. So even we are trying to maintain our data sharing agreement, and we are trying to keep all of those conventions inside our system. So good or bad. Now, so whatever bad file that we have, so we are supposed to trigger alarm. Alarm means we are supposed to send a notification. To whom? To a stakeholder, saying that okay, so these many files I have rejected. So I'm not able to process these many files because there is an issue with the file name or there is an issue with the extension. Very simple thing, right? So we will try to reject all of these files. Now, whatever files are available inside this directory, and we will send the notification. We will try to send the notification to a user, to a stakeholder, saying that no, these files are not good at all. So I have not processed it. So this process should be the automated one. So fine. So whatever file we are sending to a bad file directory, along with that, so we can try to attach maybe a messaging system, maybe mailing system, maybe a text message system. That's completely fine, which is just a configuration part, 2 line of code. Now, whatever data which is available inside a good directory. So let's suppose this file, this file, this file, this file, all of these files are available inside the good directory. Now, what is next? Now I will go inside a file one by one. I will try to open up this time an entire file this time, right? Then I will try to check a column name, let's suppose. Then I will try to check number of columns. Then I will try to check data type of the columns, right? Then I will try to check number of records. Then I will try to check number of null values. So again, there are multiple checks we will try to perform. So let's suppose if I'm trying to do a checks on column name. So what will be my reference point? Because column name is something like if let's suppose if I have to validate a column name, so I need some reference point through which I will be able to validate it, right? So here again, I will try to follow what? I will try to follow a data sharing agreement. So unless and until I don't have a data sharing agreement, I will not be able to process these files, right? So I'll try to refer to a data sharing agreement, because in my data sharing agreement, it's very clearly mentioned that these are the number of columns, these are the name of the column, these are the number of the records which I will be able to receive, these are the number of the columns which I will be able to receive, this will be the data type of the columns which I will be able to receive. So this is something that we try to mention inside a data sharing agreement, and I believe we have discussed about these things in our previous class itself, right everyone? What is the meaning of data sharing agreement? Yes. So in my last Saturday class itself, I have already discussed about we have already spent like a 2 to 3 hour of time talk about just a generic way of doing a project. Okay. Now here, so data sharing agreement, because that is my source of truth. That will be my MDM, master data management. So in other terms, so we used to call even these things as a master data management, because data sharing agreement is just a sign of paper that we used to do with the clients. Yes. Okay. So here, Rohit is saying that DSS signifies in which form data is to be accepted. Many things. I think Rohit, you should go through the previous classes that I have given. Okay. So here, good or bad. Now, whatever good file that I will be able to receive, right? So for each and every good file, right? For each and every good file. So what we are supposed to do? So we are supposed to good record. Now we are going on record level, right? So we are supposed to again create a good and bad even over here. So good, and we are supposed to create a bad even in this particular place. So good or bad in terms of what? So good or bad in terms of basically this file is like a working well or not, or this file is this record is fulfilling all the criteria or not. So in this term, so good or bad. So this is a starting pipeline. So here step number 1, then step number 2. Now once this will be done, right, then we will try to go for the next stage. As of now, we are not able to reach out to the model building part at all, right? We are just in a mid, not even in a mid. We are just like we have just started. So hopefully this flow is clear to everyone, right? Yes, everyone. Okay, fine. So whatever I have discussed, right, so far, let's try to understand a code for only for this part. Then I'll move to the next pipeline part. This is a pipeline. Pipeline means one by one, step by step. So we are trying to do each and everything so that we are trying to create a complete automated system which will be able to handle each and everything. So I'll just write a code once and then it can work with the lakhs and lakhs or millions of file for a years and years. So fine guys, let's try to understand a code. So how this code is written, how this entire things is like done, and don't expect line by line over here. It's really impossible. I'm not talking about some sort of a small capstone project, right? When I'm talking about a full scale project, it is going to be a KD, and I'm assuming that you all have spent a good amount of time doing a Python coding. So you all are aware about a Python coding. Tomorrow it is going to be even tough. So when Avnish will show you his project, right? So a level of coding is like because the kind of a modularity that he has maintained in his project is again the label, but yeah, that is a reality, and this is a label you all are supposed to achieve, and it's not tough. It's just a part of habit. So I think you all will be able to achieve it. Okay. So here, right? So here, first of all, your main starting point will be main.py file, right? This will be your starting point. I've just done the like import of all those required libraries. And here you will be able to find out prediction, validation, insertion, training model, training validation, Flask monitoring dashboard, prediction from model. So all of these classes is, or these libraries are not a library which is available in pip. These are the classes, they are the library that we have written. It's a classes, it's a library that we have created for this specific project. So in this project, heavily, you will be able to find out that we have written our own class. We have written our own module for each and every kind of a processes, even these libraries, right? These are not a library actually. They are the class which we have written over here in a specific way. Fine. So the other library, please reduce our window size. I think it's fine. So yeah. Now here, so your main starting point will be, so in a main.py file, so we have separated, let's close everything. So I'm just inside the main.py file, and it's very easy. It's a very smooth code to understand one by one. But if you will just see this entire code at a time, then you will feel like a confused and you will say that what you are teaching, I'm not able to understand. Yeah, that's a true like a sentiment you will be able to get. But if you will just go in a step-by-step manner, you yourself will be able to like give a walkthrough of a code to anyone, right? So this is how this modular coding is written. So just a one-time effort that you all have to understand. Fine. So let's try to understand this one by one. So this is just an import that we have done according to our requirement. Now here you will be able to find out three things. This is part number one, right? Now this is a predict one, right? Predict route. This is part number two, right? And this is a part number three, train part, right? So this three part you will be able to find out majorly. And then this is just a call. The fourth one is just a call. So the other three major part you will be able to find out. We have clearly written that this is routing to a predict. So at the time of prediction, you are going to use this entire things. This simply means that at the time of training, right? So we are trying to call this entire things. And I'm assuming that you are able to retain like a kind of things that we have discussed in our Flask classes, right? Yes. So anyone who is having this issue with this one, shall I teach you Flask again? Or it's like a completely fine? Because last time you all have done even a complex project, right? So it's my assumptions that you will not ask me to talk about this line of a code at least this time. Yeah. So yes, that is the reason. So we have spent like so much of time. So don't ask me what is API. Don't ask me what is Flask, how to configure Flask, what is the meaning of this route, what is the meaning of this post method, what is the meaning of this cross origin. I'm assuming that we all are aware about it because we have discussed these things multiple times, not just one or twice. Yes. Okay. And Flask is easy to understand, as people are saying in the chat. Okay, fine. So here, right? So first of all, I will not try to talk about a prediction pipeline because prediction will happen after training, right? So I will not talk about prediction pipeline. Forget about even this one, right? Just forget about it. No need to worry about it from line number 21 to 24. Forget about it. From line number 26 to 2061, forget about it because this is the prediction pipeline. First of all, we are supposed to learn what? How we have built a train pipeline. Agree, everyone? So first of all, we are supposed to educate ourselves regarding a train pipeline, then prediction pipeline, then launching. In this way, this entire like a main.py will be covered. So, okay, I will try to start ahead with the line number 65, which is a train pipeline. We understand a meaning of line number 65, 66, that's fine. 67, so we are trying to create what? Just a name, right? Okay. Then try catch for sure. We are supposed to do try except, right? Try except, that's it. Now inside that, right, we have written if request.json folder path is not none. So let's suppose if I'm trying to read out the data, if I'm trying to perform some sort of a process, I was talking about the pipeline, right? So once data will be available inside your directory. So let's suppose in this directory, I have a raw data, which is available to me, which I have received as a dump from the messaging server, right? So a raw data, which is available to me inside my system. This is the place where this thing is available. Now what I will do? So I will try to pass a folder path from where? So maybe from here, from a UI, I will try to pass, or maybe from a Postman, I can try to pass a folder path. So once I will be able to pass a folder path, so I have written if request.json. So whatever request that we are receiving, right? So if request is trying to send a folder path, right? So here from here, so we are trying to extract just a folder path. So we are just getting a request. So key and value pair. So folder path will be a key and its respective value you are trying to fetch. So let's suppose I have given a folder path over here. So let's suppose I have given this folder path saying that, okay, fine. So in this folder, my data set is available. So folder path I have mentioned in which I have all the files. Then what it will do? Then it is going to pass just that simple path, that path, right? This is trying to pass this path inside which one? Inside train validation. Now, what is this train validation, right? So if you will check over here, so I'm trying to load a train validation over here. And my train validation is a separate class that we have written, right? So train validation is a separate class we have written over here out of what? Train validation insertion package. So I think we all understand modules and package as well. What about EDA? So come out of a EDA, guys. So you're not a kid now, right? So what about EDA? Great. And by doing a EDA, you can become a data scientist, right? You think that you are going to do just an EDA throughout your life as a data scientist. And then you will be able to call and you will update in LinkedIn that I'm a data scientist. Great. Grow up. It's not a time to talk about EDA like in these kind of positions. Okay, so now here, right? So think about a system, build a system, right? Then you will be able to get a job. By doing EDA, no one is going to give you a job. Believe me. It's a myth that we should do a EDA in everything. No. Okay, so here we have written our own classes, right? So here we have written our own classes, which is a train validation class, which is written. Now, this is a same class object we are trying to call as a train validation. Now, what we have mentioned inside this train validation, and I told you, right? So like a packages, modules, classes, inside that different functions you are supposed to create. Fine. So we have created all of those things over here. A complete modular fashion and complete custom code. Let's try to understand a complete custom system. So here, right? So here I'm trying to call a train validation, right? And train validation I'm trying to call from where? From here. So this is a class I'm trying to call. Now inside this class, so let's suppose if I'm trying to create an object of this class, so what I'm supposed to pass when I'm creating an object of this class? Yes. So can I say that inside the init of this class, right? I have taken this one. So whenever I'm going to create an object of this class, I'm supposed to pass something, some parameter, right? On behalf of this path. right? Okay, fine. So can I say that here, so I'm trying to create an object of this class, train validation class, right? And I'm trying to pass a path, and from where I'm getting a path, from my request. So let's suppose there is a form, there is a postman. From there, if I'm trying to hit a request, right? If I'm trying to do a request, so in that case, I will try to pass as a value as a path. So now that path will come over here. Now what is the path? So path is nothing but a path of the file, path of the folder where we are trying to keep each and every file that we are supposed to process. Yes. Okay. So here I'm trying to pass a path, right? So I'm trying to pass a path over here. Fine. It will come in this particular place. Now what will happen inside this class? So let's suppose if I'm going to execute, right? So what I'm going to execute. So this is the object. Now this object, this class object dot, what I'm trying to execute? Train validation. And what is this? This is nothing but a method which is available inside this class, right? So this is the new module, this is the new package. Okay, guys. So yeah, so I think my net is having some issue. Even in morning in my area, so there is some issue with the internet. Yeah, my screen is not visible, so I just like got disconnected from my internet. Even now, I'm running on my mobile internet, not on the broadband, because my broadband is giving me some issue since morning 10 a.m. Somehow I was able to complete my morning class, but again I got disconnected twice. I'm using Airtel, but again, so even I have received some notification that there is some like a downtime, some work is going on, some maintenance work. I don't know what, but yeah, in my area, so there is some issue with the internet. Now also voice is breaking a bit. Yeah, I'm not using broadband, so I'm currently like my broadband is not working. So just now I've connected with my mobile devices. 5G होगी सर बैंगलोर में. हाँ, यहाँ पर 10G है. But sometimes 10G gives problem, right? Satisfied Geo Fiber user. Let me check, guys, what is the status of my internet, because with this mobile internet, I'll not be able to take complete classes because you guys are going to face so much of issue. Let me check my yeah. So do we have class today? So I think class is ongoing, right? It's the last 1.5 hour. No, will be continue. Let's see. Just wait, Ryan. So just wait for some time. So Mine is not working. Low quality. Yeah. So because I'm connected through a mobile, so use hotspot on hotspot, so I can't take a classes right from my side. You guys can join because you need a low bandwidth, but from my side, so I need a high bandwidth. Uh, keep second company's broadband just for backup. Yeah, actually, I took like a two Airtel connection, and like both is down. Even in morning, I was facing a same issue, but luckily we have completed our classes, and at 10:05 we have faced this issue, and by then I was supposed to wrap up the class, so there was no disturbance. Act also better sir, in Bangalore, but in my area, so yeah, so Act service is not available, I believe. Do we have class today, sir? This is the epic question. Okay. Fine, guys. So what we should do? Like, shall we wait for 5 to 10 minutes? Then we can decide. Yeah. Okay. Maybe what you can do is like, see, I'm connected through a mobile internet. My broadband is not working. So if I'll execute, if I'll download, and if I'll share my screen, it will create a disturbance, right? Let's do one thing. Let's chat. So you must be having some XYZ kind of issue, thoughts with respect to a project, whatever we have discussed so far, so forth. Based on that, let me clarify that one. Because if I'll start discussing about the code, and if there is some lag in my screen side, or maybe with respect to our voices, and if you are not able to understand, so again, that would be create a problem for me. Again, I'll have to explain. So that's the reason. Yeah, so Miss, please go ahead. And those who is having any kind of a doubt, please raise your hand, and I'll take some of the doubt, right? And then I'll wrap up for today's class. But yeah, so then I'll discuss tomorrow. Yeah, Subrat Nath, I think Sumesh, ARJ. So yeah, those who have raised a hand, I have just like allowed you to talk. So please go ahead. Yeah. Sorry for today. Like it's not my issue. It's on internet. So it's on internet.
Yes, Sudhanshu.
Yeah,
actually, where these wafer sensor are using Sudhanshu in real time. Yeah, in real time, where this? Yeah, sure.
So see, whenever you must have seen like a telephone tower, right?
Yes,
Yes. So in telephone tower, you must be able to see this like a horizontal, vertical kind of a shape, some square or some oval kind of a shape you must be able to see, right? Or this antenna, or even a radars you must have seen, right, in your life, radar, sonar.
Yes.
Yes. So in radar, sonar, so this buffer sensor, buffer is nothing but it's just a name. It's a plate, right? On top of this plate, so let's suppose if I'm talking about a radar. So on top of the radar, so there will be a multiple plates which we use to install, and in each and every plate, so there will be a multiple sensors that we use to place, right? So let's suppose if radar has been installed in a remote area, because anyhow we are not going to install radar in a like a city in general. So we always try to install those things in a remote area. And if we have to do a surveillance, that if some of the plates is not working, so in that case we should get a notification automatically, and then someone will go and then someone will try to fix it, right? Instead of deploying some of the person who will keep on checking these things day and day night, right? So if we have to automate this entire process, so this is where this buffer kind of a plates comes into picture, or buffer sensors comes into picture.
Okay, thanks, Sudhanshu.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible.
Hi, sir. My name is Somesh. I'm currently working in Wipro actually as a post of senior analyst. But sir, I don't think so. My work actually technically represent as a as an analyst kind of things. So I will just describe my works. Sorry.
No. Somesh, can we talk about these things in my Monday session?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Can we talk about these kind of things on my Monday session? That will be better, right? Because we are keeping a Monday session just for this purpose, right?
Okay.
I think
Okay.
you are aware about this Monday session, right?
I know I'm aware about it. Actually, one of DNA meeting used to happen at this time, at that time actually. So I will take off on Monday for that, and I will
Even
take the session.
come on Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, right? Come on any fine day. Even in your doubt clearing session, my team will be available. No issue. You can discuss, right? It's fine. So I think
No problem,
over
sir.
here,
I will talk to you on Monday only. No problem.
yeah. So if you have any kind of a discussion with respect to project, so I think we can talk about it now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sir,
Sudhanshu, I am having.
with respect to project, the project we have been in our dashboard, sir. So for I was not able to do the modular coding. So what I I am doing, I'm just seeing the project and I'm just coding on my with my hand only. So I think this is helping with me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. So next one,
Hello,
please.
sir. Hello, sir. Can I,
Yeah.
sir, just as we sir will put this project on our resume, also in GitHub. So when we explain this project in the interview, sir, if I face that one question that do you write this all code on by yourself? So in that situation, what should I answer? As you are
So
actually
it's team
pasting.
by team. So it's you're supposed to say that you and your team. It's not like you are the only one who is going to work in the project, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
you and your team. That this is where modular coding comes into picture. Some model was written by me, some model was written by my team.
My team
Simple.
member. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, Sudhanshu. Can I go forward with my question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Sudhanshu,
Yeah,
actually, I coincidentally in the morning itself, I was trying to implement a part of this code, this logging function, but I wasn't able to get the output file. Can I share my screen for that? Even the code is
No,
running.
tomorrow Avnish is going to talk about anyhow a login part, right?
Okay.
In his project, it's already done. So I believe after tomorrow, you will be able to resolve your issue.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually, it is getting finished with exit code 0 with no warning, but at the same time, there is no logging is coming.
It's just a code, right? So you must have made a mistake just because of that. There is no other issue. Code never works in a random fashion. It's code. It's not a AI, which will give you a random result. So there's a mistake and it's fine. You can rectify it.
Sudhanshu,
Okay, next question, please. Yeah.
Sudhanshu,
Yeah, go ahead.
Sudhanshu.
Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you.
After completing this project, can we start applying for?
After completing this project, so you will complete another project which Avnish will start. After completion of that project, we'll go after your resume discussion. That's the idea.
Right.
Okay, next question, please.
Yeah, hi Sudhanshu.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, these wafers, right, is used to collect only the message data from the radar, or how it is?
Reading. So
Only the reading the
whatever
data.
sensor reading that will be. Yeah.
Okay, and this MTQ will be messaging like just it will FTP the data to the our either cloud or our bare metal.
MQTT is just a protocol, just like HTTPS is a protocol, right? HTTP is a
Yes.
protocol, SMTP is a protocol. It's just a protocol, the way of transferring a data from one system to another system. It's just a protocol. Protocol is nothing but a set of rules. So let's suppose if you have to travel from one place to another place, right? So maybe you can take a multiple different path to travel, right?
Yes.
But for sure you will not go through a forest, right? Even you can go through a forest area, but what you will prefer? You will prefer to go by road, or maybe go by plane, or maybe to go by some of the available common medium, right? So
Yes.
it's just a set of the rules. It's just a protocol. So MQTT is nothing but it just provide the protocol, a way of transferring information
Okay.
from IoT devices.
Okay, fine. Yeah, thank you.
Hey Sudhanshu, Anuj here. So
Yeah, go ahead.
can we put this project irrespective of the domain, like because this looks like a kind of in a telecom domain.
Yeah, so it's not just a telecom domain. See, I'm talking about an entire pipeline. Then at the last, again, Avnish is going to talk about the entire pipeline. So
Okay.
what is the idea behind talking about the pipeline? Idea behind talking about a pipeline is like you are just trying to learn the entire system. So when you learn a system, and then if you have to fit in your project, right?
Okay.
So with respect to your problem statement, with respect to your data set, easily you will be able to fit in. So that will be a conclusion. So when I'll conclude this project, right,
Okay.
you will be able to find out that now I can use this entire pipeline for any of my machine learning project, right? And I can
Okay.
solve it without even rewriting the code. And when Avnish will discuss, right, then you will be able to see that it's a kind of a platform. It's a kind of a complete platform that I have, and I can try to use this platform to solve n number of a machine learning project, irrespective of any domain. So that's the reason. So we as a Einstein always try to focus on the platform and the system side, because at the end of the day, we all end up creating a system. So let's do it now itself. So, so that it will remove a barrier of a domain, and then you can fit in any kind of a problem statement with respect to this pipeline. That's it.
Okay, so like it's kind of a generic model that we have, we are creating for a wafer fault detection project, right?
For all the so before is just an idea, just a data, right?
Okay.
So I just talked about data, but nowhere I'm talking about a data as of now. I'm just talking about file, good file, bad file, then go to the second label, and then again try to think on the column part. So this is applicable for everything, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make it as a generic. So before is just an idea that, okay, fine. So for this idea, for this problem statement, we are trying to solve it. But once you will see the conclusion, you will be able to find out that this can be implemented with respect to anything.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Add one more point to the Anu's query, like for the telecom domain, we can use this wafer for the towers, because the towers are in the remote places.
Yeah,
and it is very tough to go to the remote site and data collect.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
these wafers we can use there.
here, see, I told you, I told you in a very beginning that forget about your machine learning, forget about everything. Try to learn how to build a complete pipeline, how to build a complete system, right? This is the time where you are supposed to learn. Then automatically you will be able to like fit in any kind of a data set, any kind of problem statement. That's the whole idea. Understanding behind this one.
Hey, hi Sudhanshu. This is Kitis here.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So Sudhanshu, like the majority of in the project, data collection is a major part, right? So in this case, yeah. Like I mean data cleaning and like the EDA part, I would say. But what my question is like, how are we collecting this data? Like whether it is CSV or in the sense, how is the data is being shared? Whether it's directly from the system.
Okay. So what is the flow I have discussed?
We will be getting the raw data where as per the file
From
names.
From where?
From the ITO, from sensors. Which
is it? No, sir. I have discussed more than that. That's the issue, right?
Okay, sorry, I might have missed it, but yeah.
So try to focus a little bit. I simply said that there is a sensor. It's an IoT device connected to a MQTT protocol that is connected to a messaging system. From messaging system, so we are trying to dump our data in our local system. So that is a flow I have discussed, I believe.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks. Sorry, I missed that part. And also one thing, yeah. Is there a way like we can connect to some SAP system to get the data? Like I'm working on a POC for in my team, so we have the data on SAP system. So is there a way like we can directly connect to the?
Yeah. So in SAP, so I believe you are aware about this PIPO team, right?
Not.
So in SAP. Okay, so in which model of SAP generally you work?
No, actually, I'm from a different. I'm a SharePoint developer actually, and even SAP is new for me. Just for some kind of.
But you said that you are working in SAP, right? You said that you're working in SAP.
No, they have the data in SAP actually. So I'm trying to build a prediction.
So there
model.
is something called as So in SAP you will be able to see like there is a process flow you will be able to find in SAP called as PIPO, process integration and process orchestration, right? Okay. So just go and ask those guys to like give you a final API or give you the convertible data or dump it somewhere else. That is one of the way. Otherwise, you can ask any of the ABAP developer, because that is those will be the guy who will create a backend and APIs. So you can ask them to expose a data set as an API, try to consume even through that one. Even through SAP HANA, so you will be able to pull out the data set. So there are multiple ways in SAP itself. So I told you just 3.
Okay, Thank you, Sudhanshu.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead,
Hello,
please.
sir. This is David. Sir, I have
Yeah,
two
David.
questions, but actually, when you teaching the project, it is very understanding. But when I open the project, there are so many folders, but I'm very confusing from where to start. Like which file which come to first. So, is there any way that anything that you can suggest from module to module?
No, there is no solution for that one. Do one thing, stop copy and pasting a code. So step by step. That's the reason. So see, I have started from which line? I have started from main.py file, right? Then
Yeah.
one by one, I'm trying to get into a different directory. Yes.
Yes,
So
sir.
I'll try to define. I'll try to when I design the project code. So I'll try to start from one file, then I'll try to get into another one classes, then another one classes. This is how this entire module has been designed. It's not like on a very first day we have created all these directories and then we have started working on it, right? Just step by step. And yeah, so just try to work on small. I think in past we have done that, right? In your class itself, we did this kind of work. This is not the first time we are doing a project. Yeah, this is the big one, but we have done even a smaller one, right? So just try to follow that.
Sir, I have one more question with regards to the data set which you have explained now. So after watching your videos, so there are first we need to understand the data and we need to clean the data. But in this now you have explained the project. There is no EDA part. So how we can manage it?
See, people, I'll tell you the problem with the people, right? So people are just aware about a couple of words. I have seen these things: data cleansing, EDA, right? Standardization. So these are the 4 or 5 words in general people are aware about, right? Because of a lots of influence of a social media and this data science things on their mind, and they don't know, they don't understand that things actually exist beyond that one. That is the reason. So since a very first day till a very last day, they just keep on talking about these 4 to 5 terms, and they never talk about anything else except this part, right? What I believe is, and what we believe is, like as a working professional inside this domain, that this is not the only thing that you should know and you should talk about. There are other things as well, right? So have we just discussed like ED and data cleansing last 8 months?
No, sir. Actually, sorry if I am wrong, but the steps I have noticed, like first we need to understand the data and clean the data and training and testing, data validation, prediction. These are the steps.
Watch. Yeah, please try to watch last Saturday class as well, because in last Saturday class I have like a step by step I have clarified many things. Yes. So I have shown you a diagram as well, if you remember, block diagram, right? So please try to understand that part. That will be helpful. Try to focus. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Vinod sir, please go ahead.
I hope you are doing well now.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Sudhanshu, in our company recently, there is a new stream open, which is intelligent automation. So just wanted to understand how whatever we are studying, right, this machine learning, and then we'll be studying deep learning later on, right, how we can correlate that to intelligent automation.
So,
because
if
I see
you can give me some insights about.
Sorry.
Yeah, so if you can give me some insights about like what your company is doing, your team is doing in that division, so maybe I can give you like my thoughts on top of that one.
Okay, so what I understood is they are going to discuss what all manual work is done by different business business teams in our company, and then they're going to come up with automation. So that part I am able to understand. But what is this term intelligent automation? How machine learning and the deep learning engineers will be able to help with that thing? So the automation, like we have also done some simple automations, right, in our previous projects here, when you gave some tasks to us, right, file copy and all those are also some kind of automations only, right, that we did through Python. But how will machine learning or deep learning concepts help in intelligent automation? I'm not aware about those.
This is a for example, so this is the current project that we are doing, right?
Mhm.
So in this current project itself, you will be able to see that people just like they go to a remote location, they try to check each and every sensors, each and every buffers, and then they try to fix it. They try to replace one buffer plate with the new one, right? So manually, someone has to visit that particular place, right? They have to like climb to this tower, and then this majority of these things will be available in a mountain or maybe in a forest area, deep forest area, right? Majority of these radars and all those things will be installed. So here, if I'll talk about like automations of the same process which we were doing manually, right? So yes, with the help of this kind of a system, we are able to do it. So let's
Yeah,
suppose you have created a model, you are streaming a data. Now your system will tell you, and let's suppose like in an entire country, right? You have installed maybe 10 lakh radar. In one radar, so there are again thousands of buffer plate which is available, right? Now, can I say that from a single place itself, you will be able to monitor, and you are not supposed to make someone available 24/7 to check, right? In a remote area. So can I say that even this is a kind of automations that we are able to do it, right?
Yes.
In a single
right.
place itself, and from there you will be able to control, you will be able to send a technician, right?
Right. Yeah.
So so in this way we are able to replace all those technicians which we are supposed to make them available in a remote area in different places. So in the similar way, right? So this automation is always specific to, or like it's a contextual thing, I would say. Like it's contextual, or it's like subjective to a task that we are trying to perform as of now, and then how intelligently we can try to do a cost cutting, and then we will be able to replace these things with the system. That's it.
Okay.
So somewhere in some of the places, some of the companies have adopted RPA, robotics process automation.
Right.
With the help of that, so they have like automated multiple tasks, multiple things, right? Some of the companies, so they have created a platform, they have created a portal through which they are even able to do that. That is another way. Some of the companies, not some, nowadays, most of the companies, so they are using what? They are using just AI as a backend. So again, this code will sit where? This code will sit entirely into backend. Not it won't be like visible to a user at all, right? But it is going to automate your processor a lot. So this is something which happens when we talk about the automation. Again, it's a contextual thing, right? So if I'm just talking about this task, and with respect to this task, I'm talking about the automation. But if I'll start talking about another task, so again, my entire situation will change. My scenario, my tech stack will change over there.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. Thanks, Sudhanshu.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, hi Sudhanshu, Atul here.
Yeah, Atul, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so actually I had this question. That day when we were discussing PCA, so I understood PCA, I understood naive bias, but I wanted to understand, like, shall we use PCA with naive bias? Like, I know you gave the answer also there, but I was not, I was still confused. So if you could please, again, just give me a bit insight of it.
Generally, my advice, yeah, you can try to use it, and by using a PCA, so when you try to derive a particular vector or a particular like a column with as a component of the other vector, that is completely fine. And then if the new vector, the PC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that you are trying to create, if it is having an independent relationship with respect to a feature, right? In that case, yes, you can use it, but that won't be a case, because a PC1 is not a component of one of the columns or one of the independent feature. PC1 is what? It is including a component of all the columns. Can I say that?
Yes, yes, sir.
So let's suppose I have created a PC1. Now, what is the PC1? So can I say that PC1 is nothing but it's a generalized line which is trying to keep or trying to capture the sentiment of the data in one direction? That is something called as PC1, right?
Yes, sir. Correct. Yeah.
This is the PC1. So in general, it won't be my advice that if you are using a naive bias, you are not supposed to use a PCA on top of that, because naive bias works well. Again, if you are going to use it, it's completely fine. It will work. It will give you certain accuracy. There is no issue. It will be able to generalize it. But my advice will be no, you should not use it.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for the clarification.
Hi, Sudhanshu.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, Marur here. I hope you're fully recovered now.
Not fully, so I have a cough. Yeah, so I think it will be gone. It's like just because of weather change, so these things has happened. So
yeah,
nothing much.
Yeah. My question is related to what Vinod asked. As part of data scientists, so we are expected to innovate a lot and come up with new ideas. So when you look at all the information out there, it's very easy to get overwhelmed with so many things. So is there any recommendation you can make, like top 3 websites or forums where a lot of research is going on and we get regularly updated on that, so that we'll be able to understand it and use it at work?
No, sir, it's an ocean itself. So I believe this is not a perfect approach to keep on learning and keep on exploring something. A perfect approach always is like keep on working in one thing, right? And keep on expanding same thing again and again into a multiple direction. Because see, research wise, there are 10 million research papers available. I know a website, and I think most of us are aware about a website where you will just go search and you will be able to get all the research paper. How many you will read out, right? Nothing. And this is not the way we read a research paper. Reading a research paper is not my hobby. Reading a research paper is simply my requirements, and from where I will be able to get a requirements. Once I'll work in a problem statement, right? Once I'll solve something, once I'll try to do something. So yeah, Dipender, I can see your code. So yeah, it's good. So it's like whenever you are trying to work in AI or in any tech, right? Pick a project, or like a real one or close to real one. Try to pick a system, replicate it, or try to build it. So the kind of experience and the kind of knowledge that you will be able to get, it is going to be unmatchable. Just wait for another 2 weeks, right? Once I'll discuss this project, then Avnish will discuss a project. He will be talking about a Docker, Kubernetes, MLOps, DVC, integration, scheduler, watcher, and a complete automated platform where by using that platform. So let's suppose if I'll give you ML use cases, right? Let's suppose I have given Manu sir, right? So let's suppose I have given you use cases. ML use cases for classification, regression, clustering, and time series, plus streaming, right? Now what you will do, you will start writing a code, right? Everyone will do the same thing, start writing a code.
Yes.
Yes. What if you have a platform, if you have created a platform, Anova is saying that no, he will not write. Okay, that's fine. So what if you don't have to write the code again and again? What if I have a platform and where just with the small tweaks or something, I will be able to do each and everything. All machine learning task I will be able to perform, or even 90% machine learning task I will be able to perform. So which one will be a better? Writing a code again and again, or building that kind of a system which can handle each and everything?
Yeah, obviously
Building
that
a
can do the
system,
work
right?
itself. Yeah.
Yeah, building a system, right?
Yes,
This is what you are
building.
going to learn in the class. So this is what I'm going to teach you, and our team is going to teach you. Build a system, right? And when you will explain those things in an interview, that no, I was not working after some of the project, right? I was not working after some of the domain for my company, right? For my team. So I was working in this kind of a system. It will create a more impact, right?
Yes.
And can I say that it will be a domain like independent in that case? Yes. Because
Yeah.
when you talk about the system, so now you have to talk about a lot. Like you're not just talking about the ML part, you're talking about each and everything, right? Each and every
Yes.
aspects, even a micro level of informations you're talking about over here, right? So this is what I keep on saying to people that come out of the conventional approach. 5 years back, if you would have said that you know a data cleansing, you know IDA, fine. People will take you in, right? You will okay, fine. You will say that okay, fine. So I know statistics, I know this, that. Okay, fine. So you can join my team, you can join my company. But now things have changed. But still, we are stuck in the same place, right? So that's the reason. So we have introduced this kind of project that no. So those things are common. We already know about the ML algorithms and all those things. Anyhow, we'll do the revisions and we'll get to know about it. But let's try to learn a real one, right? Learn and try to see that how system looks like. And once you will see this Avnish system in your system, right, up and running, you will be amazed that yes, now this is something which I can explain in a like an interview with confidence that okay, so these are the requirements which I have fulfilled. This is a complete tool, this is a complete platform which we have built, and which is an automated one. And then when you will go and explain those projects, no one can say no.
Yeah. So then I asked this question because I'll be starting Monday in the new role. So there I am expected to like come up with new ideas, and specific to the domain only. It will be like health domain.
So that is again some contextual one. That is again a contextual one. So I think feel free to talk about your domain and your things on my Monday session. I don't have an issue.
Yeah. I think
because unless and until I'm not able to understand your team structure, your company, your clients, right? In which situation you are working, what you have already developed, what kind of things that you already have, your team is already having. So it will be very difficult for me to give a suggestion. Yeah. So hope,
I think better to speak on Monday. Yeah.
Sure,
thank
sir.
you, Sunil.
Yeah. So fine, guys. I think my internet still it's not back, so I can see. Fine. So I'll try to wrap up this class, guys, today. So today I have decided. I had decided that okay, I'll go and discuss like an entire code at least, and then tomorrow Avnish will be able to discuss, but I don't think so. Tomorrow Avnish will be able to discuss. Tomorrow it's me. So yeah. So you'll have to be here with me tomorrow. Anyhow, because I have not completed my class, and yes, still I'm just like running on my mobile internet, my hotspot. So yeah, so many people have reported an issue with the Airtel today. So someone has pinged me. So even I'm using like yeah. So Airtel is facing Airtel India problem. State of Karnataka. Yeah. Yeah, there is some issue. There is some major issue with Airtel, even in my area, because yeah, so I'm living in Karnataka, Bangalore. So let's see. So we can't, we don't have any kind of a control, right? So over to some situation. So it's completely fine, I think. Okay. Fine, guys. So see you tomorrow, right? So we'll try to like connect tomorrow. We'll start from the same place. Don't worry. So we'll not waste your time. Yeah. Every time, so we'll do a fruitful discussion so that you will learn and you will enjoy these things. Our only objective is to like whenever you are going into an interview, you should feel confident that okay, I can handle the situation. That's it. Yes. See you tomorrow, guys. Same time, 3 p.m. IST. Right. Thank you so much. Have a great day and night ahead.